This is People and Their Poems, a podcast about the poems that make a difference in our world. Hi, I'm Sandy Carlson. This episode, presented by Orenaug Mountain Publishing, features our March reading and roundtable. I kick things off by inviting featured poet Linette Rabsatt to share her work. You'll then hear readings from Prithvijeet Sinha, Thomasina Levy, and Dzitko before I close out the discussion with a poem of my own. Thank you for joining us. Okay, Linette, you want to get us started on our first poetry roundtable?
Yes, I can go ahead and get us started. So I will share my 4 pieces. These pieces span some time in between each one. This first piece was written in 2008. It's called Temptation. So this is a little more sultry and lovey-dovey. 2 people sit in a trance like they knew each other for life, like they had sealed the bond for over 65 years. But wrong timing and the wrong place make this match hazardous. As he resists the temptation to touch, and she resists the urge to nudge closer, a passing passive resistance on both sides, both like intellectual minds saying that they should cease and desist this rhythmic rhyme of touch and nudge, as they smile for a while, knowing that they both have other lives in mind. A quiet walk in the garden makes this resistance, created by the matched ends, still expend energy that just won't keep them apart, as their hearts blossom full and ready for action, but they must still resist the urge to converge, knowing that one night could never be enough, but it's still so hard to resist the temptation. That's the first piece. And then the second piece is called Living. This one is a bit more, conscious. I don't want to see you sitting, waiting, or regurgitating what has been fed to you. It's time for you to talk, walk, and stalk for opportunities to improve yourself. Who said that life was fair, square, or clear, and that you don't have to learn? I want to see you grow, know, and show that your life is not a stereotype. Don't watch the fathers, mothers, or others, because they have already lived their life. Don't sweat, fret, or regret over your past sins. Think real, don't steal, but appeal for your rights. Keep away from resentment, give with true sentiment, and for justice, always represent. This next piece is called The Ladder of Hope. It was recently written based on a photo prop that I saw on Facebook. The ladder of hope shows the rungs of development of hope in our lives. At the lower stage, it's about how you gauge conflict with contempt and stressed emotions, how you struggle with trust because you're still afraid of the unjust. But as you climb, holding on to your lifelines and strongholds, by the time you reach the middle of the ladder, you get to be more bold, with more hope storing in your soul. That hope becomes a real concept. And while you still worry about the lack of respect from some, the hope in you says climb higher, because inside of you is that hopeful fire, ignited by charity received and given, spurred by the chances that enhance your living. This hope grows from deep within your soul. As you let it bloom, miracles will unfold. And then my last piece, because I'm an avid music lover, it's called Music Calls Me, literally just finished writing a few minutes ago. Music is not white noise. It is the synchronization of our voices, blending harmony and melody, adding life to a classical symphony. Startling bass as the tenors lead, sopranos chime in and altos intercede, chanting and rapping to a fresh beat, timely wordplay and knowing when to repeat. Of course, music prompts movement. One chime becomes natural inducement to move any pliable part of your body as the person next to you simply copies and dances in time sequence. sometimes holding hands in this beautiful dance, all spurred by the beauty of music, so natural and sweet to your ears. You naturally indulge and gravitate to it. Thank you.
That was amazing, and what the doctor ordered for this day. Thank you so much. All the beauty and the hope and the beautiful language. So thank you so much. Appreciate that.
So Linette, do you have a subject that you particularly like to write about? We got a flavor of a few things today, but where do you like to focus?
I like to focus on encouraging people and sharing inspiration, but I write almost about everything. And there are a lot of Facebook groups, they share a lot of varied prompts. So they have me writing drabbles and six-word stories and rengas and tankas. So I think I'm a bit more all over the place. When I was younger, it was more like, about my blackness and about the politics, but now it's more about just life, enjoying the simple things, my garden, my music, my children, my family. So I'm all over the place.
Yeah. Do you have a Facebook group that you like more than any other one, or?
It's a few of them. There's the Cultures of Art, Prose, and Stories page, Cultivating Voices, Aspiring Writers Society, Ali's Ink Pen. It's a lot of them. But
Yeah.
each one has its own flavor, and you go according to the energy that's there. So I like the prompts, and a lot of really cool stuff is shared. So I'm hoping that the more I share, the more persons would reach out and, try to submit to the journal.
Well, cool. Thanks. I've seen some groups uh, where it seems like it's the same two or three people putting up every single day, and it's always the same stuff. And there's like thousands of people in the group, but you get like one voice every single day, probably 3-4 times a day sometimes. I don't know how they write that much.
Yeah, a lot of people are like that, yes. But I find that, and it's so funny, as you say, it's the same people in all the same groups. But when it comes to prompts, that really helps to widen the voices a bit more. So I always encourage people, if you see a photo prompt or word prompt, just try it. It's something else to add to your collection.
Yeah. All right. What do you want to do next, Sam?
I don't know. I'm just kind of basking in this conversation and actually thinking about a Haitian artist that I brought into my classroom yesterday, Linette, who her name is Patricia Brintle, and I feel like the exuberance and the joy for life in her paintings of her native Haiti, just kind of, I could hear it in your voice, and just the sort of being immersed in that kind of lushness and celebrating it. I just think our world is a beautiful place. So I don't know, this is just a personal indulgence. I'm just making the connection between all the healing power around us, if we're open to it. So thank you very, very much. I think Prithvijeet, would you mind reading next?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the poem that I'm going to read is actually an ode to my hometown, and it's titled Lucknow, an ode to the city. This poem has found space in the very prestigious Lucknow Metaphor Literary Festival. It was back in 2021, and it has been published in various capacities. I think it's one of my most well-known poems till date, and that is why I would like to share it with you. We have a rhythm in our steads that drifts away and disengages itself. That is when the city calls all its weary, disheartened voyagers to settle for staying back. It plays an ethereal music, like freedom released from the waves of observant life. It is a music on dull days and pale moons, waxing eloquent over this earth, each note carrying its splendor under the canopy of memories that stand between starry nights and sun-dappled onsets. The soul then hangs midway, presiding in those hearts who are all ears for the melody of the night, listening to each daydream materialize with the winter haze, while waking up from nocturnal reveries to enter a doorway of the mind, an ecstasy as such, a city song that holds sway with us. The song is lulling us to sleep tonight, and calling us to its arms, full of love and composure, for the dreams run aground, and the outcasts come out to acknowledge its maternal core, while a songbird's heart leaps heaven-bound, for the night crickets enter the music room now. The hour of our lives is determined. The notes, tranquil and soothing, come to us with the last of the bird's breaths and fall on us with daybreak's enchanted spell. It is the music we grasp, the city song we repeat, the recital we prepare for our days. Thank you.
That was gorgeous. So just imagining the doorway of the mind and all those, the bird song inviting us into our day. You mentioned, I think, that it's been published in various locations.
Yes.
Can you just tell us a little bit more about your, like, where you publish, where you're active as a poet?
Oh, yes. I actually started writing poetry since 2018. I took it as a challenge that let me see if my words can resonate with as many people as possible. And so, just on a whim, and with the belief that my words do matter, I started contributing to various journals and magazines. And so there are, for example, our first speaker tonight, Miss Linette, she mentioned Aspiring Writers Society e-zine. In its first issue that was published in 2020, I contributed a poem, Pillars of the Earth. So, what comes around goes around. See, that's what happens. I was really happy to listen to that reference. And I've been a regular contributor to the Ekphrastic Review, Visual Verse, Borderless Journal. I actually started my journey with a letter to the editor and Reader's Digest, which I consider to be very auspicious. And so the journey has continued. I've been a part of many anthologies, and a recent anthology will get published from Delhi this month itself. And I've also been lucky because I've got two of my photographs published in Piker Press, one of which is about to come on the 10th. So it's been a very fruitful journey. And this poem is one of those which has found a lot of pride of place. I recited this poem at my alma mater, University of Lucknow. It was a pre-convocation ceremony. I was invited back as a student, and that to me was the biggest, source of pride, that I got to, go back to my alma mater and recite the poem in front of all the teachers who taught me and, were able to introduce me to the world of poetry. So the guidance and their blessings were there. So it's been a really, really successful and fruitful literary journey. And Orenaug is just one of those instances where, I could build on the power of community.
Well, it's really great to have you as a part of our conversations and in our publications. I think your poetry is wonderful, and congratulations on those successes and those upcoming publications. That's really.
I really feel blessed to be a part of Orenaug as well.
We're very fortunate, and it's just a wonderful experience. So we've been to the Caribbean, we've been to India, now we're going to bring it back home to Cape Cod, where Thomasina Levy is today. Thomasina, would you read for us now?
I have a question for Prithvijeet. Do you always write in English, or do you also write in your native language as well?
I predominantly started writing in English, which I consider to be the universal language because it connects us all. But yes, I do have a habit of writing things down in Hindi, which is the predominant language that is spoken across India, not in all the states, but it's another binding language. And I also write in Urdu or Hindustani, which is a beautiful and elegant language. And since I come from a city of Lucknow, which was known for its mannerisms, for its language and poetry, so I think I have that ancestry with me, and I'm carrying it forward. So now it's a mix of all three languages, but predominantly English.
I'm in awe of anybody who can write in more than one language well. And it was beautiful, really. Aren't you, Sandy? Like, in America, we learn one language, and yeah.
And play with Duolingo for a while. Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah.
So we're talking about music. I'm a songwriter, and the poem that I'm going to read, I actually plagiarized myself and put the words to the song many of the words into a song, but I'm just going to read you the poem. So it's even, I wrote this poem here at Cape Cod. Every evening you go out to watch the sunset, and at the bay here. And as we're standing there watching the sunset, all these images came to me, but there was a wire above us, a telephone wire, and this little bird sat and sang the entire time facing the sunset. I feel like he was, or she was, just in awe of the sunset like the rest of us. It was just, there's no reason for her to keep singing and to face the sunset. That's the way I felt. So anyways, even song. Sing unto the earth a new song. Oh, and the other thing is that there's a, in the Anglican tradition, there's something called the Evensong Mass, and it starts out with sing unto the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things, but I changed it to as honoring the earth. So evensong. Sing unto the earth a new song, for she has done marvelous things. Glory be to sparrow for hymn of laudation to the eventide. Glory be to surging and surrendering like the ruffling and swirling and furling waves. Glory be to gossamer clouds buoyantly scudding above our strife and struggle. Glory be to the sanctifying wind, chanting a psalm of mystery. Glory be to sunset exuberance, slowly cloaking itself in sacred twilight. Sing praises to wisdom, sing praises to beauty, sing praises to creation. Glory be.
Thanks, Thomasina. Thanks for sharing the inspiration with that little bird. I've been wondering, I mean, is it a human chauvinism or what, that we think we're the only ones capable of awe? I mean, why? An emotion and memory? I don't know. But that, I appreciate what you did also with the sort of the liturgical element there. There can be such peace in those structures, and what you did with it and where you took it was just lovely. So thank you. Ed, you got something?
Sure, I have something. Well, I started writing poetry when Sandy became our local poet laureate, and a lot of what I've written has kind of come about because of projects. Like Sandy was running open mics at the library, and we talked one time about doing a baseball event, and next thing I know, Sandy says, "Well, you want to read?" I had to put a few baseball poems together to have something to read, but it ended up becoming a little book. And then Sandy led some aphrastic writing projects, and we did a big one at the library where we wrote every month. And so a lot of stuff came out of that. But I'm going to read a poem called Benediction about the Civil War, the American Civil War. And I think I tend to write narratively about the Civil War. Like I like to focus on the voices of the people that were somehow involved during the time. And so this is about a nun who went to be a nurse shortly after the battle started, or shortly after it ended. I forget the exact timing. But it's called Benediction. Traveling the Emmitsburg road upon 2 wagons, they slowly rode, a priest and 16 sisters of charity. Gettysburg is a scene of terror, Sister Camilla says aloud. Oh, this battle, this war, what a great error. Days later, as new nuns arrive, Sister Camilla, seasoned and frayed, greets them all with words kind and wise. No one thinks of these buildings, says Sister Camilla, as sanctuaries or schoolhouses or homes. No one sees the difference, Sister Camilla adds, in these men, despite the color of their uniforms. There are tents and farmhouses, over 3 miles of space serving as hospitals in this sad place. There are signs in the woods made of old boards with dangling red flags reading, "More wounded this way." There are dead still lying around, and men with maggots crawling over their odoriferous wounds. In hospitals, they lay across pews. Under them, There stretch quite a few, in blood, wash water, and other filth too. The sights will turn your stomach, your legs will grow weak, your nerves will shatter, your hands won't move, but your heart will stay true. You'll bandage wounds, you'll cook and feed, you'll encourage and pray. Your presence will be seen as a benediction for many, for those not knowing if they'll survive an hour a day. You'll serve God, do your duty by caring for these poor souls. You'll pray hard for humankind. There's never such a cruel war again. Now I think if only they'd listened, prayed with all their might, perhaps then there wouldn't have been more of the same, fight after fight with no end in sight. Thank you.
That was an interesting insight into that time in our history, that who comes in to clean up and take care of the messes that the big boys make, and I appreciate that poem for the way you highlight what was involved in caring for people, and miracle we survived. I have a little poem.
Can I chime in?
Yes, please do.
Regarding Ed Sir's poem, the poem was so evocative, and I was reminded because I'm also a huge cinephile. So for a lot of years, I was trying to watch Edward Zwick's Glory, which is, of course, according to me, one of the most important films on the American Civil War. And it shows, both the perspectives of course, the Caucasian officers who led the battle, as also the African American army, which was an integral part at the heart of the storyline. And this poem has a very pivotal point regarding, who gets to survive. And as you said, who does the cleanup, who gets to deal with the aftermath. And so I think poetry does that as well. It creates an imagery, which of course you can conjure between the past and the present. And so I was reminded of that cinematic experience because I just watched it a few weeks ago for the first time, read about it, learned a lot about it. And Ed Sir's poem really revived those memories because the film was so poignant and sensitive to the history of a country, as well as being universal regarding the state of war and how no side wins. It's really an elegy, as is your poem, sir. So thank you for sharing that poem. It was really poignant.
No, thank you. Jan?
Okay. I have a little poem called Shadows Cast, and so sort of a winter poem. And I think one of the things I always loved about the winter, as a child, when I'd be in the back seat in the old days before there was, you had to strap in. So when my dad drove, you're all over the back of the car by the time you got to your destination. But we would drive from where I grew up to where my mother's mother lived, and it was along a winding road around a reservoir. And I love when the leaves were off the trees because you could see deep into the woods and you could see the old walls. And I would imagine that it would go on forever. And I had this thought that actually, as much as the being with people that make memories, it's also those in between times, when you're looking forward to going to your grandmother's, or when you're driving home and you're thinking about what you did while you were there, but also how that landscape becomes as a shaping experience too. And I just love Connecticut anyway, but this is a little poem called Shadows Cast. Long shadows of oaks stripe the cold hills, burnished by the fallen golden oak leaves. Once a canopy, now winter's blanket, and now the infinite shines once again. As a child, I would wonder who slept here in the open quiet of winter nights, moonlit and shadowed, yet open to open eyes. Where to, gentle deer? And where are you, black bear? And where are you? Came lost echo's reply. Wide-eyed and silent on wonder's sharp edge, I stepped back. Wonder remained a dream. I stepped behind the barred shadows. I kept my silence. Where are you? Even now, echo whispers to me. Where are you in the darkness? What can you see? Thank you.
That was really nice. Very heartfelt, as usual.
Thank you, Prithvijeet.
When we first moved up to Connecticut, there weren't a lot of woods in the area in New Jersey in which in which I grew up. So when we moved here, my parents had a house that had a bunch of woods with some trails in the back. I used to wander back there after school, wondering about how all those stone walls appeared, but then also wondering about the few older trees that were still there and so big. And I used to kind of, walk around thinking, what would they tell me about how all these walls got here if they could speak?
There's a wonderful book, and there are videos on YouTube by a professor named Tom Wessels, and it's How to Read the Forested Landscape. And he talks about the thousands upon thousands of miles of stone walls in New England, why they were built, the trees. And he's a very mild-mannered New Englander. He stands there and he'll look at different fallen trees and say, well, this means there was a thunderstorm because it's going this way. And but he's just got this incredible skill for seeing what's there and but putting the pieces together to arrive at an understanding of natural history. And it is one of those things you wonder who walked here before and how hard they had to work to get these globs of granite stacked together to keep some sheep in during our sheep fever, that kind of thing. But just want to open it up. Did anybody have some more comments they wanted to offer or some insights to share? And I'll mute, and you can just unmute yourself if you want to add to the conversation.
Sure, I'll go. I just wanted to say thank you so much for this opportunity and that I enjoyed everyone's piece. People would swear that we planned to have music being brought out the way it was, but it was all natural. Everybody shared beautiful voices, beautiful words, some more touching than others, some heartfelt, and definitely I could relate to, the whole thought of nature, and especially being in the Caribbean where we get these devastating hurricanes. And, one morning everything looked really pretty, and by the time you woke up the next day, it was this description that you gave. The trees that remained standing didn't have any leaves on them and the place was bare. So you guys took me on an emotional trip today. And, I was like, I'm really, really appreciative.
This has been People and Their Poems, presented by Orenaug Mountain Publishing. Learn more about what we do by visiting www.orenaugmountainpublishing.com. There you can find out about how to contribute to and purchase the collections we produce. You can also find out about our services and how we can help you publish your book. And don't forget to visit our online poetry journal at www.orenaugmountainpoetry.net. Orenaug is spelled O-R-E-N-A-U-G. Thank you.